Good evening, you're watching Gambia24 on Africa.tv with me, your presenter Mariama Cham. And we now begin with our main stories. 3 nominees disqualified in upcoming GPU awards. As the TRC continues its hearing, a witness says he thought Jammeh's HIV treatment was a political rhetoric. Gambia Red Cross Society fumigates more than 700 schools. These and more coming on Gambia24. Stay tuned. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. Now the news in detail. At least three entries disqualified and 1 dropped from the upcoming Gambia Press Union National Journalism Awards 2020 out of the 33 finalists nominated. The award committee said in a press conference on Wednesday that their stories lack the required criteria. The Prominent Journalism Award, initiated in 2016, aims to honor and recognize hard-working journalists. More in this report. Demba Ali Jao, chairman of the award committee, told journalists that his committee will not reveal the names of those disqualified. However, Jao explains that some of them were disqualified because they submitted their entries in the wrong categories, amongst other disqualifications, as he explains.
We had a deadline for submission. Unfortunately, some of those entries didn't meet the deadline. They submitted beyond the deadline. Even though, the judges realized that late, but after they have done their shortlisting and other things, they realized that actually some of those stories were submitted beyond the deadline. So it would not be fair to the rest, definitely, to consider those ones. That is one of the criteria. Another thing was maybe some of them, we had categories. For example, if you report anything on COVID and maybe submit the story under sports, so that is definitely wrong categorization. That also could be a factor. I'm not sure whether it happened in this case, but it was definitely an important factor to disqualify a story because it went into the wrong category. Yeah, and then some of the stories we understand were undated. There was no date. So because we are dealing with a particular area from January 2019 to December 2019. So all these stories must be within that period. If they are outside that period, then definitely they are not qualified, no matter how good they are.
Chairman Jao said 203 stories were submitted for the competition by 41 journalists. Meanwhile, Sana Kamara, Communication and Branding Officer of the Awards Committee, said they decided to drop these journalists from the list of nominees when they conducted a thorough review of these stories.
We said 4 were disqualified. But of these 4, actually it was 3 that were disqualified. The 4th one was not disqualified, it was dropped. Why? Because after the initial assessment, somebody could have been unfairly nominated. After every assessment, you realize that this story doesn't deserve to be. It's not that it was disqualified, but there was another story that did better perform than the initial one. But that story in the initial assessment was left out.
Due to the coronavirus pandemic, this year's award will be held virtually at the Sir Dawda Kairaba International Conference Center on October 24, 2020. Broadcast medias were invited on a bid to broadcast the ceremony via online. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham. That was the upcoming GPU National Journalism Award to be held on the 24th. Now, a senior scientist and head of HIV research at the MRC West Africa Collaboration and Research Network has told the Gambia Street Commission that ex-President Yahya Jammeh's proclamation of HIV and of having the ability to cure HIV and AIDS is just a political rhetoric. Detailed in this report by Julien Soare.
Dr. Hassan Jay's appearance is meant to give first-hand information about his work on HIV/AIDS in the Gambia and how HIV/AIDS treatment was approached and dealt with by the MRC in collaboration with the Gambia government. Testifying before commissioners on Wednesday, Dr. Jay said the president's proclamation took him aback because he never thought that Jammeh would go to the extent of practicing it.
It was a surprise to us, but at the same time, a worry. And we thought at that point it's just a political rhetoric and would stop at that, because he was known to make proclamations every time.
By saying, okay, please proceed.
Yeah, he was known to make proclamations politically anytime, and we thought at that point in time this was just one of those political rhetorics. Until when we were informed that he's on the verge of organizing a treatment clinic. That was when our worries became profound.
Dr. Gay said he is of the belief that former President Jammeh made the proclamation because he wanted to fulfill his self-esteem when he assumed power, because he was once quoted as saying that he wanted to be a doctor but ended up being a soldier. The scientist added that Jammeh proclaiming a cure for the people who are sick was meant to exploit the vulnerability of those people by virtue of his position as president. He also told the Truth-Seeking Commission that it becomes really strange and highly unexpected for one to declare a cure for the virus, because it is impossible to cure going by its cause.
Cure is not possible in HIV. And
why is that?
Why is that? The HIV virus, its genome, I think I alluded to this, its genome is a rare genome of an RNA that is two double-stranded. And normally RNAs are single, but this one has a positive strand alongside it that enables it to integrate into the host DNA itself. And that's how HIV becomes successful. But not only that, that RNA it has, it's accompanied with proteins, enzyme proteins, that will enable it to employ a mechanism to integrate into the host cells itself. And at the cell itself, it's at the DNA of the cells itself, the way it integrates, and become part of that DNA to start multiplying. So if you want to treat, and cure means eliminating the virus. That's what cure is. If you want to cure, you have to get to that virus where it's hiding, but you cannot touch that virus without touching the DNA, the cells of the person. So you destroy the cells of the person. That means you kill the person itself.
Narrating the impact of the president's proclamation on them, the immunology specialist said Jammeh's treatment program led to the destruction of their own program because most members of the cohort decided to move to the presidential treatment.
So there was a decision that we have to close the cohort. It became apparent when many of our members of the cohort came to indicate that they are now moving in program to the presidential treatment program. We cannot stop them because it's their choice. What we have to do is to create a discharge form where they will have to sign that they are now leaving the cohort and move over.
He said as of 2005, 90% of the patients in his programs were able to attain low viral load. However, most of the conditions of the patients worsened and others died when they moved to the presidential treatment. The lead HIV and AIDS researcher at MRC said some of the patients had to come back to MRC because they realized that the president's treatment was bogus. For iAfrica News, I am Julden Yai.
There was a health scientist testifying before the Truth Commission on former President Jammeh's HIV treatment. Now moving on, Carnival Municipal Council introduces its first comprehensive bylaws on Wednesday at its chambers in Carnival. With rising conflict among communities as a result of different nuisances with the jurisdiction of the Lord Mayor, the 2020 by-elections intends to enforce and create tranquility for a smooth development process. More in this report.
Speaking during the press conference, The Lord Mayor Talib Ahmad Bensouda highlighted the need why his office composed the first comprehensive 2020 bylaws. Mr. Bensouda says the need to resolve local conflicts within his jurisdiction prompted the initiative.
We have had many complaints from members of our community about the lack of order, civil disobedience, conflicts between neighbors and community members, all because of lack of local governance. One of Council's biggest responsibilities as a local government authority is to establish order and the rule of law within its communities. The Constitution does not cover all these aspects. There are many I would term as micro issues within our communities, including loud noise, obstruction of routes, having ceremonies and other public events late at night without consideration of your neighbors. And this is why we have come up with comprehensive bylaws to guide our communities and to ensure there are penalties if one disrupts their community.
The Lord Mayor further seeks for a collaborative workforce from the security sector in ensuring the laws, in enforcing these laws.
All because we need help, and it's all our responsibility to make sure it is fully enforced. KM is our municipality. It is the center of Gambia. If it's organized, we believe Gambia will be organized. If we respect each other and exercise neighborliness, we believe all Gambians will do the same. As we always say, KM leads by example, and you, the Security Task Force chiefs, we will rely heavily on you to make sure that these bylaws are fully enforced. We also thank you for all these years of cooperation and all the sacrifice and help you have given to our municipality and our council, and we look forward to a continuous and fruitful relationship.
One of the police commissioners present says a whole lot of collective effort is needed for the implementation of these bylaws and calls on all concerned residents to abide by the stipulated laws.
We should thank the KMC management for coming up for the first time out of many municipalities, out of many councils, for them to come up with these bylaws. Now, these bylaws are for us. Who are to implement these bylaws? Not the mayor to go and arrest your neighbors. It is our residents, ourselves, that we should come with those offenders to report it to either KM or to the nearest police station. But we are compromising ourselves on this maslaha. That's why the speaker said, we are not law-abiding. We are doing so much of maslaha. You will see your neighbors with this dumping side or with other things, but to call the commissioner, KM, you will say, when I call, dinañu wax ne man mbokam la, man ma dem report ko. No, the laws, we cannot make the laws and put them under our bed. These laws has to be implemented. As a good citizen, we are all police officers. We are all police officers. That's why you said most of the laws are not implemented. And then if you are hardworking and implementing these laws, they term you as a bad person. So with attitudinal changes, these laws cannot just be made and put on table. We must practice them.
The application of these bylaws sets to regulate nuisance created in our localities, the regularization of sale and transfer of property through the Council for Rate, Leisure and Registration, maintenance or proper sanitary management of property, irregular removal of natural raw materials, connection of private sewage pipe to a public drainage system, disposal of waste products and dangerous substances on public domains, control of stray animals and the control of market stalls. However, any person who compromises or violates these bylaws shall be prosecuted before a competent court and is liable to pay a fine of not more than $1,000 or given a jail term of 3 months. For iAfrica TV, Sohna Tunkara.
Well, that story by Sohna Tunkara on the bylaws introduced by the KMC will take us to a short commercial break, but we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back into our rest of the stories. The Gambia has on Wednesday recorded 2 new COVID-19 recoveries. This has taken the total number of recoveries to 2,595 since the confirmation of the first case in the country in March. The country has seen a decrease in the number of new cases compared to 2 months back when the spike in the number of cases began. With 6 new cases registered, the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country is now 3,642 as of Wednesday. No new COVID-19 related deaths have been reported. No one has been newly taken into quarantine and no new discharges were made from the treatment centers. With the Gambia on its quarantine, there are currently 929 active cases and a crude case fatality ratio of 3.2%. Now, as upper basic school and senior secondary schools in the Gambia open today, measures to keep both teachers and students safe from the contagious coronavirus is a necessity. The Gambia Red Cross Society, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, has successfully fumigated more than 700 schools across the country. Ibrahim John tells us more in this report.
The Gambia Red Cross Society is known for leading the fight to oust COVID-19 from the territory of the Smiling Coast. The humanitarian society spearheaded the burials of people suspected of being killed by the coronavirus. Now, as students get set to return to the classrooms, the Gambia Red Cross Society still leads the way to ensure safety of educationists and learners. Abdullah Faye, the program's manager of the Gambia Red Cross Society, said they were able to fumigate more than 700 schools in the country.
Is to fumigate the schools first, because even without COVID-19, if you don't use a particular place for a long period of time, it is better you fumigate the place so that any bacteria or any other virus that is around, you can able to reduce its impact on the people. So that is one thing that we are currently doing, but also to ensure that people are prepared to go back to the schools. So currently that's what we are doing, and as of yesterday, we have fumigated over 770 schools countrywide. The teams are still doing. As we are entering, we just met with our teams from the field. So, and this is doing simultaneously countrywide.
Faye further revealed that the Gambia Red Cross Society is collaborating with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education to render humanitarian assistance to schools across the country.
Yes, we are really working with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, and we have signed an MOU with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. 2 MOUs. One is looking at the COVID perspective, which is basically to ensure that schools are fumigated. But the other one is a general MOU, that we work together as institutions to promote humanitarian work also in the schools. So there's that collaboration. So whatever we are doing, we are in consultation with the authorities of the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education.
Abdullah Faye, the Gambia Red Cross Society's programs manager, has this advice for school administrators and students.
Yeah, for the school administrators and the students is that they need to ensure that all the safety precautions that needs to be put in place are in place. And one of them is they should have enough hand washing facilities in the school, with the necessary detergents for students and visitors, including the head teachers, to be washing their hands frequently. This is very much important. And especially the young ones, because we are going to have the nursery schools, the lower basic schools that are going. They need a proper assistance, and coaching, so that they can adopt that, behavior of frequent, hand washing.
Educational institutions were ordered to close in March when the Gambian leader declared a state of public health emergency. This led over 600,000 pupils in pre-primary to secondary schools and about 20,000 adolescents and youths attending higher, tertiary and non-formal education and training have their activities suspended. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Ibrahim John.
Well, that story of Red Cross fumigating Gambian schools will take us to a to the end of this bulletin. For more news, you can join iAfrica.tv. I was your presenter, Mariama Cham. Stay tuned and have a good night.
kaas pawo bi jeex na depuis démba xettali ma rek ni jaay nga jëndal ma kaas pawo balaa yére yi di wow dama paase
fii amoo fi benn xaalis laa amut